Howdy, folks out there, and Diane here. I said in the past that I was going to tell some stories that involve scamming mixed with crime, and boy, is this one a good example. Very sad story, and stick with me and I will tell you what happened. Pictured here is Tripoli, which is in Libya, which is the north coast of Africa that sits on the Mediterranean Sea. They're going through a transitional government right now that took place after the Arab Spring, which was leading up to 2011, and a lot of bad things happened there, and I'll explain them later on in the video. But women from all over Africa, a lot of them in poorer countries, went here for domestic work. Now, sometimes they'd be told they'd make a lot of money. Sometimes they were told they'd work in a hotel. And, they were excited. They said, oh, good, I can make some money to send home to my family. But the reality was far different. This beautiful beachfront resort-style pool in front of the Gaddafi Palace was owned by him and his family, his offspring and their offspring, their spouses, and they lived a life of luxury. Being the ruler, you can kind of do whatever you want, and the hell with the people. Some of the people, loved him or were afraid of him, and many of the people ended up becoming rebels. And you will see what happens a little bit later on. But like many other wealthy families in this area and the Middle East, so North Africa and Middle East, actually they call it MENA, Middle East, North Africa, MENA. They don't always treat their domestic help very well. Now, I'm not speaking for all of them, but many of them, unfortunately, do not. And these women are scammed by the recruiters or whoever that says, oh, I got a great job for you, going to Libya, And this young lady from Ethiopia is very excited and says, oh, good, I'll go there. Now, they didn't tell her, who it was going to be working for, I don't think, and she had no idea what she was in for. The left picture is the green flag that Muammar Gaddafi had insisted on during his reign because he did not agree with the peace talks happening between Egypt and Israel. He was strictly against it. After his reign of terror, he was no longer alive and ruling the country, the flag was changed back to the red, black, and green with the crescent moon and star symbol that is used by Muslim countries. Now, on the right is another one of Gaddafi's palaces, which he had more than a few. By the way, there was abuse to other maids, servants, and employees of the Gaddafi clan. Arriving at this beautiful place, this is where you will be working. Such a pleasant atmosphere. I think I will like this job. I don't think it'll be a problem, the maid says to herself. But look out. And here's the lovely couple. Yes, I'm being sarcastic. Aileen and Hannibal Gaddafi. And on the right is a picture of Aileen and her maiden name, Scaf, formerly a model from Lebanon who married Hannibal Gaddafi. Unfortunately, in these types of abusive households, the employers feed them very little. Even though they're preparing food for the whole family, they're lucky if they get a few scraps. They are not taken care of at all. They're not allowed to call their family back home. And in this case, this woman never got paid, and she worked there, I believe, for over a year. At one point, she said to her madam or ma'am, what they call their boss, when am I going to get paid? The woman looked at her and said, "No pay, you just work." I've actually heard this kind of attitude in some of the rich women that lived in the Middle East. And like I said, I'm not saying it about all of them. But one woman was arguing with the maid saying, "I paid for you. I already paid for you. You're mine." Like she owned her, like a slave. And that's a horrible attitude that some people really think this way. The unfortunate maid, who actually was also a nanny for this lovely couple that I showed you on the last page, her name is Shwiga Mullah, and she is from Ethiopia, and she was 30 years old, and she was very, very badly burned, scalded with hot water, you name it, and it was done more than once. One of the other people that were working in the house took her to a hospital to be treated, and Madame Witch found out, and she did it again to her. She did it several times to this woman. Here was another picture of the lovely couple who don't seem to care what they did. They don't care if that woman died. They didn't care about anything. The last attack was done on her because she wouldn't beat this lady's child to stop her from crying. Okay, Miss Mullah said, "No, I'm not going to beat your child." This time she did even worse. She tied her hands behind her back, dragged her into the bathroom, and just kept pouring hot, scalding water over her head and even over the old wounds. Now, before I say anything else, I need to give the credit. CNN played a very big part in helping this lady, coordinating care for her and whatnot, and they deserve, the recognition for what they did, the initiative they took. God bless them. After the final injuries, actually, they were all over her body, okay, not just on her head and face. They actually, for the last time they tortured her, they put her outside for a couple days, wouldn't let her come in, wouldn't feed her or anything. I mean, it was horrible. Now, this is a hot part of, a tropical part of the world. However, North Africa can get chilly, a desert kind of climate. So when you have burns, like when you get a sunburn, you get chills extra easily that night. Well, she had burns all over her body, so of course she's outside freezing. Okay, even though everybody else wouldn't be. They would not let her in the house. They even fed the dog in front of her to kind of drive home. The dog gets to eat and you don't. To this day, I wonder what happened to those poor dogs. I hope they're okay. But these people left her on a cot on the floor and fled. This is after a couple days. They fled. And CNN was actually, this is August by now, the end of August. So this is her after 3 months of nobody taking care of her. I mean, it's sickening. It's amazing she survived. The idiots left the compound and fled because they knew that the revolution was going on and the rebels were fighting Gaddafi's troops. And I will explain what happened on the next one in case you weren't watching the news, which I'll bet a lot of you were. But this was 13 years ago. But it's still fresh in my mind because I have it in for this lady, and you'll see why there is other news that they're not exactly angels. However, this woman was finally, CNN found her, and one of the other workers in the house, the place was actually, after Gaddafi and his family members left, the place was actually like in shambles. And you'll see on the next few pictures, this poor lady, she explained what happened. And they actually ended up sending her to Malta, which is an island in the Mediterranean. And they were the kindest people. And CNN had actually coordinated the care. They had some donations set up and everything. So, like I said, God bless them. And they actually brought attention to this matter, one of the people that did, but I think they were the main thing that helped her. And she had a number of operations, and they really cared for her. And this poor woman was scared to death. You know, and the Gaddafis, the husband and wife, they just left her for dead. They didn't give a damn. I mean, that really irks me. But thank God there were kind people that were helping her. Also, after the Gaddafi family left the palace, uh, the rebels went in and had a good old time. They taken pictures of the royal couch where Gaddafi's daughter stayed. And look at the rooms; they're a shambles now. And the pools, good and green. They had an indoor and outdoor pool, I guess. And they found bottles and bottles and bottles of very expensive liquor and wine. And wait a minute, you're not supposed to drink. I guess Ramadan you're not supposed to drink, but some of them you're not allowed to drink at all. I guess there's different levels of Islam that you follow. And the funny thing is, how come Madame Witch always dressed, kind of, you know, risque? I find that in royal families, I think that they are above the laws. She went out in public like that too. Okay, I didn't see her wearing any headscarf, abaya, anything. I mean, it's really disgraceful. But it was nice. They left a bunch of bottles of liquor behind. So, of course, the rebels got it. And it's nice to see them laugh and taking pictures of each other. Before the pool got all green, they had jumped in it and went swimming. So, the palace is not the palace anymore. The big chief, Muammar Gaddafi, the head of the big grandpapa of all of the other offspring and grandchildren, you name it. In 1969, he got into office, if you want to call it an office, and in 2011, he was unalived by the rebel forces. This all occurred during the Arab Spring, which also went on in Iraq and the other countries there. Lots of fighting, lots of bloodshed, unfortunately, because, the innocent children and the people who are not fighting, a lot of times they're the casualties. Just like what's going on right now in, between the Israel and Palestinians. It's the innocent people that, get unalived, and it's really not fair. But, what they say, war is hell. It sure is. But Mr. Gaddafi was known for doing some weird things. Sometimes he deliberately slept in a tent, but it was a nice tent. It wasn't just some, little pup tent. So he had a couple of, he could do whatever he wanted. If he wanted to sleep in a tent, let him, even though he had a very luxurious compound. Although his sons, his children, and their spouses, and his grandchildren, they loved the luxuries. They didn't mind at all. Now, he did take luxuries sometimes, of course, but I guess he wanted to see how the other half lived. I don't know. I think the tents he stayed in were pretty fancy. But another nasty thing he did was Egypt and Israel were trying to broker a peace deal. And he was very upset about it. He didn't like what Egypt was trying to do. And it's pretty sad that he had that much hate in his heart. I mean, maybe if he had agreed to the peace deal, things would have gone differently. He didn't want Israel being on good terms with any of the other Arab or Muslim countries. He was unalived by the rebel forces, like I said, and one of his sons, not the one married to Witchy Poo, but one of his other sons was unalived as well, and all his offspring and their families and his wife all got a sanctuary, which I say a protection in other Middle Eastern countries that accepted them. So they were safe, but there are several pretty graphic videos online of him crawling in and out of rat holes and being captured and even unalived, and I'm not going to show them here. You want to go look, go ahead, but I'm not going to. But it was a bitter end for the man. On the left are pictures of Aline, if that's the way you pronounce it, and Hannibal Gaddafi. They were in Syria. This happened in 2021. She got drunk and deliberately ran her car into not only policemen, but also civilians. I don't think she got in any trouble because, she's royalty, right? On the right, you will see they call her the Claudia Schiffer of North Africa, Aisha Gaddafi, his actual daughter. She is a lawyer and she had represented Saddam Hussein in the past and also the IRA. I saw that she had to used to have blonde hair. Now she dyed it back dark again. She is looked at as a martyr, wonderful person. Look on her Facebook page. People worship her. Oh, she's wonderful, blah, 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 blah. She actually set fire to the safe house that she was living in her adopted country that was giving her refuge. I don't know what's wrong with these people, but don't send them to America or any of the other Western countries. Actually, don't send her anywhere because even if it's not a Western country, there are innocent people everywhere. I'm just really upset that these people get away with so much. I will end this video with a hopeful note and kind of a happy ending. I'm sure that the physical as well as psychological trauma that this poor lady got after all the attacks with the boiling water. She has been a strong woman and persevered, and God bless the people, CNN, and all the doctors and nurses who helped her in Malta and from other countries who all, got together to contribute. The bottom right picture is her smiling, and what a beautiful face, and they're having a little celebration for her. Now, I saw her Facebook page recently, and she looked even better, and I didn't want to intrude on her, but I just want to say that she was going to university, college, and she's got, I guess, a lot of followers, and to me, she's a real-life hero, and people are going to remember her in a good way. And other than the horny young men who look at that A-Lines picture, those of us who know the truth are not going to look at her in a very favorable way. Let's let good triumph over evil. I hope the fighting in Israel stops. After all, it is the civilians that suffer the most. I don't have the picture on me anymore, but a couple of months ago, there was a picture of the Israelis and the Palestinians side by side doing things to help people and rebuild, young people being friends with each other. Why can't that be for everyone? I'll tell you why. The terrorists use people as shields. I'll bet if they were just left alone, they would not hate each other. And the truth is, I happen to know that a lot of them are friends with each other. I mean, it's ridiculous what politics and power-hungry countries do. And the ones that suffer the most are the civilians. But back to the topic of this video, I hope this young lady, Shwiga Mullah, I hope she lives a wonderful, long, and happy life. God bless her and the people who helped her. And I will be back with another video very soon. Love you. Bye-bye.